And so I'm going to turn the dais on over to him. And I know you have a huge following, Stephen, and there is a strong reason for that. It's because you bring some extremely valuable and pivotal insights to the equation based on the new technologies and the not so new technologies that are amongst us. So with that, I'm going to turn the program over to you on customer-centric data refinement in the age of AI and machine learning.
Great. I'll just
Stephen.
stay here. So the camera is over there anyway. So thank you for coming. My name is Stephen Yu. I've been doing this data analytics gig for about close to 40 years. I think you were being close. I'm not that old. But anyways, so I was an analyst for a long time, and I was a founding CTO of a company called iBehavior. So one of those companies that collect thousands of data sources and make sense out of it. And later on, I was a head of analytics and data strategy for companies like Infogroup or in the outsourcing company called eClerx and such. Now I'm an independent consultant. I'm a coach in analytics. So the way I teach is that if they do the homework every week, you'll be the 9th degree black belt in data analytics. So that's what I do now. So, but I'm still hands-on, but I just stopped programming a while ago. Let me just go to the next slide. We have a lot to cover, so I'm going to go a little faster, but I'm going to state the obvious a little bit. I mean, this is about this customer-centric data, and a lot of folks may questions like, yeah, who doesn't do that? But let me say this. A lot of companies don't even know how many customers they have. I ask the questions like, do you know how many customers you have? Specifically, last 12 months, somebody who actually spend money and has a transaction with you, how many are they? And they will say things like, yeah, we have about 10 million members. Or we have about 12 million emails. So I didn't ask you that. How many customers do you have? Without that, you don't even know the customer value. What is your denominator when you have all these sales and whatever? What are you going to divide that by? So this is a fundamental problem that we have with all this AI and machine learning, and we build models so much faster than before. But as we all know, the fuel for AI engine is the data. The data is flawed and not organized well. Yeah, the data is everywhere. It's like Matrix. Every breath you take, every move you make, we know about you. But so what? And although we talk about generative AI a lot, but what does generative AI do? Replaces copywriting. Doesn't predict, doesn't organize. And AIs are not that smart. All these different modules do different things. There's no one governing AI that does the whole thing for you. In fact, I might even say that those folks who think that, oh yeah, AI will do that, will be replaced by AI first. Okay, so
Great.
So don't even say please. So let's not even go there. And all these like things about AI and technology. No, it's not about technology. I'm sorry. It's about commitment. And we talked about in the previous section that we have all this analytics ready, but nobody's following the action. Now, why is that? Is it lack of consensus, lack of credibility, lack of whatever? No, I say that people are stuck in the past. Yeah, we've been copying the marketing plan from the 1965 and modify a little bit. When something doesn't work, you blame the analyst, you blame the vendor, you blame the list, and you move on. And I'm thinking, you know what? Years ago, we used to jump up and down if we have a response rate of 1.2%, right? We don't get that response rate now. Now, why is that? So we have to ask the fundamental questions about, yeah, you have all these things and things are changing. There's no guessing game, we know that. But a lot of people are still guessing. How many times you present a wonderful model, but somebody's gut check over supersedes the whole thing and they don't do that? That happens a lot. And you may call it politics, but the head of analyst job, I think this evangelizing the whole analyst is a job too, which is what I'm doing now. And yeah, it will play a huge role, blah, blah, blah. I mean, just cut to the chase. In the red, what I say? It's about commitment, not the technology. When I was in a co-op business, we used to have, this was like almost 20 years ago. We used to build 100 models per day with a 1990s computer so that we can score the whole thing overnight with 140 million records in the database. This was 20 years ago. Nowadays, we could build models a lot faster, score a lot sooner, but the point is, we don't do that. We don't do all the right things. So the winners are not about the guys who have the latest and the shiniest toy, really, but it's about the attitude and the commitment. So where's the data movement going? So let me just do some gut check here. Okay, so first statement, we're not in control. In the old days, marketers buy media, you send the messages out, hope to God that it works, and then we change the message so that they hear you, right? No, every channel and will be interactive now. You know what that means? All these smart kids that we use in our examples, our nieces or nephews or whoever, they have 100% power to turn you off, 100% control. You don't think that you're in control. We think that we're in control. We do the creative, we do the targeting, we do all those things. Yeah, you're busy doing it, but you're not in control. They will opt in if they think that it could be beneficial for them for a second. As soon as you get boring or not cool or whatever, or not relevant, they will turn you off. So that means every interaction is data-based, and you have to know who to talk to, and you have to know what to say. But as soon as they think that you're boring, you sound like a boomer. They said, by the way, there's somebody called me a boomer. I think that's an insult, right? But anyways, they'll turn you off. So what that means is that, yeah, I've been saying this ad nauseum, that we got to personalize every message, every channel, every opportunity for everybody, for every product. Yeah, but are we doing it? The question is, I know the answer. The answer is no. The answer is quite seriously obvious in your own inbox. How many times you look at your inbox and say, yeah, this is really relevant to me. I really was waiting for this thing. The answer is no. So the whole idea is that, yeah, we've been saying one-to-one marketing forever, but let's go back to the fundamentals. What does one-to-one marketing mean, really? One is you have to know who to talk to. Just because you have an email opt-in doesn't mean that you have to be talking to them every single day. I'm a guitar player, by the way, so I signed up for some famous guitar companies like Gibson, Fender, whatnot. I was so sick of it, I opted out within a month. Why? I signed up to see something interesting and something new and something relevant. No, they were just talking to me just because they can. They didn't know when to shut up. So I said to myself, you know what, I didn't need this. Yeah, I'll just buy the guitar when I need to, but I don't want to hear them every single morning and afternoon. Actually, they were doing multiple times a day. So I turned it off. So they have to know when to talk to and who to talk to. And if they decided that, oh, I really want to talk to them, do you know what to offer? Through what channel? With what offer? You know that. And that's personalization. And I say, yeah, but we bought a personalization engine somewhere, we installed it. And, you know, I bought this mouse from a vendor. And for a month, they go like, do you want another mouse? The guys, that's the last thing I want. Why do you think that I need, do you think I'm building a mice farm or something? I don't need all these things. The reason why I emphasize the customer-centric marketing is simply because I am really annoyed by what they're doing to me. So for example, I bought a new driver. I don't need another driver. They've been sending the same golf offer every single day until I opted out. Now they're asking for it. You know how costly it is to opt in somebody, and for me to be sick of them and they're causing all these things, it's a shame. One time I was helping this prominent actually, one of the leading manufacturer of the casual apparel. They were like, you know what, my click-through rate is going down the tube and blah, blah, blah. We're doing all these things. And so what do I do now? So I said, well, you've been sending the emails 14 times per person without discrimination, doing that for years. You're training them to ignore your email messages. You're training them, right? And you're complaining that nobody's clicking? No, you don't ask me the questions about how many more mails I have to send to maintain the same click numbers. You have to ask, okay, how do I refrain myself from talking to everybody every single day? They don't want to hear from you. Now, all this, by the way, goes back to customer-centric view of the data. Because the way I see it is this. The business goal should come first. Business goal is that I want to increase my footprint. I want to increase the revenue. I want to find new customers who are more likely to be my most valuable customers. Blah, blah, blah. That's the goal. The goal is set now, then you have to analyze things. You have to build models to find those guys out there. Now, how do we do it? The database is already optimized for something like that. Now, that is the right order. But in the reality, it's completely backwards. The data in a shamble. Nothing is organized. It's not structured. Yeah, you have the data, but it's a description of transactions, channels, product, divisions, and such things, not descriptors of customers. You know what you do? Your modeling is limited to the limitations of your database itself, backwards, and your business goal is hampered by the limitations of your analytics. It's completely backwards. Now, I'm not saying that every organization is like that, but most suffer from symptoms like that. I always see the modeling, I'm like, wow, you're a retailer with 42 divisions, and you have like 100,000 SKUs, nothing's organized. If I ask a very simple question, like how many customers have visited multi-departments versus, yeah, this is the guy who just show up in a retail store, just buy the food and get the hell out. Yeah, so his frequency is great. His average duration of the visit is like 2.5 days per whatever, per person. And his spending level is such and such. But is that the entirety of his relationship with your company? The answer is absolutely not. You don't even know if he's ever visited your home improvement department or your apparel department. You don't have no idea. Because you know what? You have 100,000 SKUs unorganized. You have absolutely no idea how many times he bought something from different departments. You have no idea. So all these goals should be backwards. So the analytics, by the way, I've been in the analytics game for a long time. It breaks my heart when I show up in a company and say that, yeah, just jump into number 4. Don't ask me questions and just build some models and leave. No, I want to know what your problems are. Let's formulate the questions first. Are you calling me in to improve your prospecting or CRM or customer value increase, or you're launching a new product? What are you trying to do here? Or are you an airline or a subscription business where you want to have a longevity, you have a cancellation problem? What problem do you have? Because depending on the problem that you have, the kind of a data that we want is completely, utterly different. So data discovery is a second. So let me see if I can see your database, audit a little bit, and to see if I can even answer your questions with the data that you have. And inevitably, you go like, yeah, you have the data, but it doesn't look like it's in a good shape. That means you have to go through the data transformation. This is the core of our discussion today. Some transformation so that now you convert all the descriptors of your transactions and channel activities and all these other things into the descriptors of people. Then you do the analytics. Then you share your knowledge. And by the way, that's the big breakdown. I helped out one of the most prominent electronics company in the world. They're sitting in New Jersey, by the way. And we built the state-of-the-art CDP, built a bunch of models, built amazing attribution models. Guess what? They're not using it. They're not sharing it. Because of the politics, they go like, yeah, I don't buy it. You know what? I gave you 5 different attribution options. If you don't like one of them, you have 4 other options. Just look at it, please. So knowledge here stops. So let's say that went on. Now you have to apply your insights into actual practice. Are they doing that? Well, that's a good question, right? Yeah, some guys are doing it. Yeah, I'm using your model in my email selection, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, sure, great, you did that. And then you did the impact analysis to see if it worked. If it worked, great. If it didn't work, improve it again. You ask a new question. So this is a complete circle now. If something doesn't work, and by the way, this is why I never build one model for one problem, because if that fails, then you have nothing to talk about. Build about 3 models, one worked, one is a home run, the other tanked, you have 2 to talk about. And then you start all over again. Just fine tune these things and just go again and again until we get it right. Now, why do I have this circular chart? It's so obvious because I see a big disconnection in all 7 steps. Even the most prominent published companies don't do the 7-step properly. I mean, you could write an article about the whole attribution philosophy and whatnot, but you know, I don't even care if it's limited to Google channel or whatever. Just do it, please. And so again, the attribution comes to from the holistic view of the customer as well. Because I don't see, by the way, channel activity or the Google Analytics as a complete picture at all. Because, for example, when I buy a golf club, somebody send me an email. Yeah, you need a new driver. You'll hit 10 more yards, but that's a lot. And then I go like, yeah, that's interesting. So I'm going to click it. What do? I'm going to do the Google search. I'm going to read some reviews. And then it lands on some golfgalaxy.com or whatever. I land somewhere. Then I go like, should I buy it? It will show up in 3 days, but I want to use it this weekend. What do? Get into my car, go to the store, and I buy on site. Am I an online person or offline person? People call me an online person. I find it as offensive as somebody call me oriented. Because I'm not an online person. Because I did everything that you offer. I clicked it, I looked at your browser, I went to your website, I see the competitive website, I went to the shopping sites, I put something in a shopping basket, and then I bought it offline. And I used it this weekend. So the point being, nobody is that one guy. And the question, the disparity of this discussion stops because we are not having that discussion. So I have some data philosophy about it, right? So big data must get smaller. I don't even like the word big data to begin with anyway. What are the good data? The good data are, 1, easily understandable without deep knowledge in analytics. We use weather report every day, right? To do weather prediction, they must use 1,000 variables. And to be honest with you, I don't care. All I want to know is that, yeah, I'm going to New York City today for this conference, and I'm not going to bring my umbrella. Why? Because, yeah, there will be rain after 4 p.m. That's the prediction. So therefore, I plan my days accordingly. Do I have any knowledge in all the weather prediction? No, I don't. Now, analytics that we use in marketing should be as simple. Even the call center guys who are not educated at all, who are not even sitting in this country, when somebody calls and pops up and the score is as simple as, you know what, this guy's a VIP, no matter how much complaint it does, do not ever hang up. Do not ever hang up. Hold on to it, because his customer value is XYZ. That analytics should be done so that the most, how do I put it, anybody in the organization can understand what the value is. Number 2, it should be digestible small bits of information. One time I was sitting in a conference room of an airline company, and nothing was easy. And by the way, this company went through a merger, and there's some of them coming from Houston, some of them are from Chicago. They were fighting in front of me for 9 hours. I charge all 9 hours anyway. But the point is, they have no idea what the valuable customer means to them. Now, of course, in the airline business, valuable customer could mean a lot of things. High mileage, a lot of spending, somebody who paid the full price all the time, frequent business traveler, all that. Now, what's a business traveler? Yeah, well, let's look at the booking date versus flight date, and let's do the distance and see how that works. But the point being that these guys think that having a 1,000-page data dictionary is the answer. That was a core cause of a problem. When the ground crew, all they need to know is that, you know, I have a 1 business seat opened up. Who deserves to be sitting in that upgrade class, right? It should be the bite-sized, not some long, arduous like data dictionary. And it has to be consistent, accurate, effective, and easy to use. I'm sorry that I have to repeat it, but the point is, yeah, it has to be accurate. And also, it should be useful in most cases, not some limited cases. Case in point, yeah, you have all this data. I have an attribution method that's like up to a zoo, but it only works when somebody is online. because I only have all this Adobe or Google Analytics. I have no idea what all this offline activity look like. You know what that means is that it's useful in some cases, but it's not useful in all cases. And it should be readily accessible through users' preferred devices and channels. Hey, it could be reporting, it could be email that you get every morning, it could be something you sign on, whatever it is, but it should be accessible. So what that means is that, yeah, you have all this data, but number one, cut down the noise. And number two, package the answers, insights really, so that it looks like a weather report that could be finished in 20-second explanation. Now, when it comes to data strategy, and I have this obvious chart, and I bring this chart over to one minute. Because this is when I find out where the money is spent. A lot of times I don't get the gig because the money is spent on the wrong place. The money, number one money is the data collection. Yeah, we have the transaction data that goes back 20 years, and I can find any transaction within 0.5 seconds. That's fantastic. Okay, great. But does it tell you any insights? Well, let's hold that thought. The delivery is all this like dashboard, BI reporting, all this campaign engine and Salesforce, all those wonderful things. And it could be personalization. What is missing though, is that there has to be a connector between the number one and number three, which is data refinement. Because most of data that I have seen are not organized, categorized, or summarized, or in any way. And they are really, really dirty and unreliable. Data hygiene and standardization, out of discussion. Consolidation and summarization, absolutely. And of course, I even put the modeling in the data refinement, because model is not just a predictor. Model is a filler. I don't know for sure that if the guy is a bargain seeker, but he certainly looks like it. I'm not sure if he's a golfer or if he's some home audio enthusiast. I don't know that for 100% sure, but certainly he looks like it. All those things are not just predicting the future, but it's about filling in the gap. I don't know for sure, but it's a probability. And by the way, in this world where everybody's so sensitive about certain things, having models is great because even the user think that, oh, it's not a whole truth. I have to be careful when I say something, because you don't say, I'm sure you guys remember all the fiasco that Target caused when they said something like, oh yeah, you must be pregnant, so I'm gonna offer you this. And this is how their father found out that his teenage daughter got pregnant. Now, that's pretty bad, but the modeling was pretty impressive. You know how I found that? I saw them in a conference and they were presenting it really proudly. They were tracing, somebody was switching the lotion from scented to unscented. That became a variable. Now imagine what kind of a modeling that they're doing. This is an amazing model. But you have to stop and think, it's like, wow. But does it mean that I have to act like I know you're pregnant? No, please, this is about gentle nudging. So let's tone down the notch a little bit and say, you know, you probably would want to use such and such product without saying the why.
Have same thing happen
Sure.
with, well, not the same thing, but Kimberly Clark has noted at our conferences that they're highly sensitized towards potential hiccups like that.
Yeah.
Because they were, especially in their Huggies line and their baby line.
I could totally see that
Yeah.
would happen. But if you just suggest, for example, Safeway, they've been 100% customizing their coupon books for a long time. Amazing modeling team, by the way. And you know what they do? Gentle nudging. When they do the coupon book, they just put wine and then the Huggies diapers. They don't say that, oh, you must have a baby. They don't say that. That's very invasive. But the point that I'm making is this. When the user know that this is a model score and everything is packaged in model scores, you know that it's not 100% true, so you have to be a little more careful. And also, when you fill in the gap, yeah, a lot of people like hotline data, and I have to know who's moving and I have to know who's buying a house. Yeah, that's great because that's time sensitive. But say that you're a cruise ship operator, you have to sell these cruise ship tickets, right? Well, does it mean that you have to know? No. All you have to know is that likely people who are likely to take a cruise tour. That's all you have to know. So you don't have to wait until you have 100% information. And with the modeling, you could do a lot of things. Now, of course, when we talk about analytics, they're not all the same. And a lot of people they call business intelligence analytics. Is that wrong? No. You have to describe the present. You have to know what the customer looks like. And what's happening in the world, what is the click-through rate, go up and down, you have to know these things. The descriptive analytics is about, yeah, your customer is more likely to be middle-aged, they must be a family person, blah, blah, blah. That's descriptive. When we do that, you do a lot of profiling, segmentation, clustering, all those things. Then we get into the predictive modeling, but prediction, like I said, it's not just about predicting the future, it's about filling in the gap as well. But we build all these models. Yeah, who's likely to churn, who's likely to sign up, all that demand forecast, all this future prediction. Then, of course, there's optimization. We talked about it in the previous session. Yeah, channel optimization, spending models, all that kind of stuff. All those analytics. If you go to the agency, they think that optimization is the analytics. Go to the direct marketing shop, they will think that the predictive modeling is the analytics. But the point is, it's all of the above. But I want to change the whole paradigm of asking these questions in a different way. Then let's follow the marketing cycle, not the difficulty of modeling. Because who cares about difficulty of modeling? The most complex model can be built within a few hours by AI these days. Let's not talk about complexity. Let's talk about what you need to do what? To answer what question. Now, in any marketing, it could be B2B, B2C, B2B2C, it doesn't matter. You're in the business of acquiring new customers, expand your footprint. If you acquire the customer, you have to build a relationship and to retain them and milk their money and maximize your customer value. And if they ever leave, you try to win back. That's really it, right? Now, in these 4 cycles, the available data are quite different. Obviously, when you require somebody, you don't have any CRM data. They didn't have any transaction with you yet. That means you have to rely on a lot of third-party data sources and blah, blah, blah. You have to do a lot of lookalikes and profiles and all that. If you're in a CRM, cross-sell, upsell, or a customer value model, this is the fun part. Analysts love it. This is when your transaction and full behavioral data come into play. The question that I have is like, for example, if in the corner I have the valuable, vulnerable segment. These guys are really valuable, but he's about to leave. Then what do you have to do? You have to be proactive. You have to treat them like a VIP. You have to give them offer, letter from CEO, do whatever you can do to hold them back. This is how we have to see the analytics world. Not some analytics stack like this. People are stuck in the technology. And by the way, I've seen a lot of presentations where they have a big pyramid chart and they go like, yeah, the predictive analytics is on the top. And by the way, in that order, I have a big arrow going up on the left-hand side. Well, let me say this. This is the drugstore. All the things in the middle are the drugs behind the counter. You're not approach. You don't go in there and just say, oh yeah, I need whatever, right? You don't do that, right? Let's say that you as an analyst are doctors. You gotta understand what marketing cycle they're in, what kind of questions that they're trying to do. And you have to prescribe what they need to get. You don't get to do easier ones first, just because easier for you. And by the way, if somebody gets a gunshot wound and comes to the ER, you don't get to do all this like blood tests. You have to stop the bleeding first. That's the first thing that you have to do. So that means is that the order on the left-hand side has no meaning. You have to do whatever you have to do to answer your questions. And all that in the middle is that, yeah, you have to be ready to do all those things. Then what are all those things? Yeah, all these models on top. You have to build some personas for personalization. Yeah, who are more likely to be bargain seekers, who are early adopters, blah, 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 all those personas. And of course, you have to be profiling, segmenting, market basket, all those wonderful things. Could be BI, that could be A/B testing and all the digital analytics, BI reporting, all that. At the bottom, to enable all those things, I am suggesting you have to build analytical sandbox. And that's, by the way, the core of today's presentation, is that to do all these things without worrying about the difficulty of modeling, you have to have all the data ready. So let's talk about analytics ready environment. And this is the core of this presentation anyway. So what does your database support? Let's ask that question first. When you have a order fulfillment system, it could be whatever, Shopify or it could be whatever. The point is, yeah, it's about transaction. Somebody orders such and such product on such and such date, you paid with a Visa card or whatever, this is what you pay, that's the shipping, that's tax, that's discount, whatever. That's the record. Great. You have the name and address and the shipping address and the billing address, you have all those things. But that is not to understand the customer. When you talk about customers, it's not about the order. When you talk about customers, it's about how many times did he visit our store last year? How many times he actually bought something? What is his annual value? What is his per transaction value? What is the days between transactions? Is that like a week, month, 3 months? What is his cadence, for example? That is what we're trying to get to. So you have to ask, like, all these things are out there anyway, but the point is, you have to really put them on a sideways, not upside down, but sideways, so that you gotta get a customer-centric view. Now, why is that? Because if I am running a sales organization and say that, you know what, I'm gonna give you 1,000 leads, you have to call them all, and I'm not gonna tell you which one is a Glenn Gary, Glenn Ross kind of a lead. And if I say that, they go like, oh damn, like, what am I can't call 1,000 guys, right? So what do? They'll do anything that they can do to rank them. Should I call the guys who are close to me? Should I call in the order of names that I know? Or should I do some research and get a sales volume or employee size or industry code or whatever, and then just rank it on my own? But imagine, by the way, this list that I provided has full of duplicates. How can you rank something like that? Now, in personalization or whatever the marketing that we do, it's not just about personalization. Whatever we do, it could be about, let's predict what will be the most wonderful product to push next season if you're in the fashion industry. And they always think about it. Well, what should I push next month? Then you know what? Your database has to be reorganized on a product base so that you can do something like that. If something is about targeting people, then you have to rank people. Whom should I call first? You have to rank them. To rank them, the enemy of this whole conversation is your relational database, or the worst is unstructured database. That's the worst. You cannot rank something like that. So even temporarily, you have to summarize data so you have one line per customer so you can rank them easily. And by the way, all these cloud companies and all these data shops that are like a machine, when they churn all these names and leads, that's what they do. And each line becomes the descriptors of such individual. It stops being the descriptors of the transaction. Garbage in, garbage out. All I can say is this. I go to a lot of conferences, and by the way, that 80% of your time goes to data prep work. That's a nice prediction. A lot of analysts spend 90+% of their time in data preparation, not modeling, not analytics, not answering questions, not even presenting something. That's what they do. So my goal is, let's cut that to 0. Absolute 0. When you do that, and I can testify in court if I have to be, if I'm forced to, that yeah, with the 1990s computer, we built 100 models and scored all of them overnight because they're so organized that way. So now let's talk about the silos. We have the data problem because all these different sources, in mobile app, call center, POS, whatever, right? Social media is not even linkable. But the point is, All these are in silos. But the single view of a customer is, let's go back to my golf example. I got an email, I got a whatever text from some golf company, and you need a new driver. This driver will give you 10 more yards, right? The point is, yeah, but you don't have a full picture of my full activity, all the channels that I've touched, all the channels that I bought from, all the post-purchase engagement that I have done should be organized around me and me only. And what is missing here? What are you going to link by? Name, address? You have some kind of an individual ID. Are you going to use the email address? I'm sorry, I have 7 email addresses. I don't even know which one I gave you. So how are you going to link them? Now, of course, there are a lot of commercial CDP solutions and ID graph companies out there. Fine, use them. But the point is, are you doing it? Now, this is a very technical, process-oriented view of what you have to do. This is a holistic view. I call it a holistic view because this includes every channel, everybody, every activity, everything. The first thing that we have to think about is analytics, of course. The dark green part, you build a report, you build a model, you score them, blah, blah, blah. That's what we traditionally call analytics. Again, more than 80% of the time are spent on the left-hand side. And what are those things? You got to clean the data, you have to do the consolidation, you got to assign an ID. And I call it a commodity service because, again, you can call a company and say that, I need a household ID and individual ID, and they'll give it to you. I'm not guaranteeing that they're going to be all good, but they're going to give you something. Great, let's use them. But the job is not done yet. We got to categorize. And I gave you an example of these retailers with 100,000 SKUs, and they have 42 departments. Are they organized? In a way that is not about the inventory management, it's about describing your customers. Again, when you do the categorization, like you have to think about your business goals. You're not describing the transaction, you're describing a person, and you are doing all those things. You have to do the categorization. Summarization is you have to summarize all that on an individual level so that everything becomes a descriptor for the customers and the person, not the transaction, not the channel, not the product line, blah, blah, blah. Then the third part, we're going to talk about some of it, is the variable creation. And by the way, even AIs work better with intelligent input variables. Instead of putting in some raw data, and the result becomes, yeah, you bought a mouse, I'm going to offer you more mouse. But no, you're going to describe something that's more relevant. You have to give them a purpose for the AI so they can build the right model. And that starts with intelligent variable. Intelligent variable means like, we talk about RFM, by the way, let's talk about F for a second. What does F mean? Frequency? What does that mean? Transaction per year, per last 3 months, per 24 months, per lifetime. How about days since last transaction? That's recency, right? How about days between transactions? Let's talk about all those things. Or how about days in between transactions for each department? Because what if the guy bought a washing machine and never came back? Is that a good customer? Yeah, he's a good customer. He spent $3,000 in a whole appliance department, right? But just because his days between transactions is 3 months doesn't mean that he's automatically a bad guy. But what if he comes and just buys groceries and leave every time? Then yeah, you gotta look at it as a different kind of a value. Now all these stories come out. And by the way, when I was helping out this pet company, I say, you know what I said, guys? You're selling all kinds of dog food, nutritious dog food, or the organic dog food, or it could be a toy or the treat for training, or just because you love your white poodle, or whatever it is. But the point is, let's measure how guilty the person feels for the dog being home alone. And they were like, well, how do you do that? Well, you have a transaction data. We could do that. How do we do it? We measure his or her spending over the dog food category. And then let's divide them further. Let's categorize every dog food and cat food that's out there. Canned food versus dry food, the whole big package versus whatever. And then do the percentage spending per person, not per your department. and then say that, you know what, she's awfully spending a lot of money in the treats. She feels bad about it. Now, I'm not going to say it in my email because that's offensive. But the point is, you know, I'm going to nudge more of those treats to her, really expensive ones too. While I'm at it, we're going to talk about all this cute like costumes. But I'm from Korea now. A lot of people in Korea, they even dye their dogs. I'm kind of against it, but the point is they spend sick amount of money doing those. Point being that variable creation leads you to that kind of activity. I was helping a steakhouse once, and they didn't do it because they think that it's impossible, but it's totally possible, by the way. I said, you know what, guys, the customers who come to steakhouse once a year on the same day to celebrate with a party of 4, well, great. It's probably coming for anniversary and birthday, right? Let's think about, they have the data for all this. Let's divide each spending for pre-or dinner drink, appetizers. Cover is what the main dish, they call it cover. Let's talk about dessert. By the way, if it's a family outing, you want to have 1 or 2 dessert and share. You're taking a client out, you're talking about a high power sales guy, they're not going to do that. And they're going to order a sick amount of wine. Did they order 1 wine? What is the spending per wine per person per bottle? Let's do all those things. And if you do that, and if you also know all the locations in the country and say, wow, this guy shows up in all these locations and he orders sick amount of wine and he orders expensive stuff. Hey, he's probably a high power sales guy. So when he orders next time, let's have some models built before he even shows up. And you know what? Greet them in the Florida location on such and such date with your sommelier next to you. You don't have to teach how to model for all these waiters and maitre d', okay? You can just send, they all have pads, send the message with the model scores, they will know what to do. Well, that's how you touch your customer. That's how the personalization really works. It could be a hotel, it could be whatever. It could be vacational, it could be whatever. But the point is, the left-hand side is even more important than the right-hand side. That's it. And of course, right-hand side is important because when you build a model, you have to share the knowledge, and we talked about in a circular chart. You have to do the result analysis to see if it works. And if it worked, let's even talk about what worked. What is a really loaded question? Was it the subject line? Was it the offer? Was it the creative? Was it the selection? What was the models? Let's know what was the source of the name? What was the channel that you used? I could go on, by the way, but the point is 99% of my customers do not do that right. Where guys like me have some jobs to do, that's why, by the way. The point is, I'd rather not do that, by the way. I'd rather that I walk into a company, they have all this set up, and you know what, I spend more time analyzing what happened rather than stating the obvious, and hence this presentation, stating obvious that you gotta do these things. So let me just skip this because I said all these things already. So now we're getting into CDP world. CDP is one of those hot buttons, and there are a lot of companies that claim that they do these things. And what is the backbone of the CDP is that, like I said, you have to define what a person is. That means you have to be able to assign a customer ID with a very much a disparate data. Like, for example, name, address, city, state, zip, great. If you have those, wonderful. But is there a shipping address or billing address? If there's a business address, you got to figure that out. Then you got a email address. Yeah, but one person can have like 8 different email addresses. Which one is the primary? What's the secondary? What's the tertiary? And what is the one that bounced in the past? What is the one that doesn't even look right? There's no @ or .com. Let's do all those things, right? The point is, you do all those things, you get some kind of a customer ID. Now let's start linking all these data sources, and this is a very simplified version. Let's start from the left. The behavioral data are the most powerful predictor of the future behaviors. Let's start there. So what they did, they voted with their money. That's the most powerful predictor. By the way, I thought one time I was embarking a green model when I was at Info Group, and they still have it, by the way. And we use the survey data. I say, do you consider yourself green? And the model tanked. Because everybody was, yeah, sure, I'm green. Sounds cool to say it. But the question was not that. The question was, did you spend any money to be green? Did you change your light bulb? Did you buy an electric car? Did you donate to some environmental causes or all these other actions that you have done? Point being that people, what they say that they do and what they actually do are completely different. By the way, that's why my old company is called iBehavior, because behavioral data is really about transaction data. And we used to collect data, transaction data from like 2,000 different sources, and it became really powerful. So I'll start with the transaction data. And what is the transaction data? What they bought, when they bought, how much they paid with, through what channel, and who they are. That's transaction data. Number two, what they bought is a little bit different because each transaction may have 10 different products in it. If you imagine a Amazon shopping basket, I rarely buy just one thing. I mean, I'm an Amazon Prime, so I do that more often. But before I became a Prime member, I would like wait until I have some 5 items so that I don't have to pay for the ship. Point being that the data management becomes more complex. And by the way, when I help out like some retail chains, geez, I mean, each shopping basket could have like, I don't know, 18 different products from like 8 different departments. It gets complicated. So that means that requires different kind of categorization, different kind of a summarization. You have to count items instead of transactions, the whole 9 yards. But let's just say that they are connected as well. Then there are clicks and views and whatnot. Great. But it's limited to online, but can you even link that? But let's say that this company that you hired did all the wonderful jobs and did the left-hand side. The right-hand side, with what you did as a marketer, and how they responded. I sent direct marketing offer. I sent an email. I sent a text. I sent all these things. I did a display. How did they come back? I was helping out this cruise ship company, and these guys had no idea how that worked. But you know how the cruise ship company works, right? These guys sell the cruise ship tickets. That's not how they make money. They make money by selling more wine, more drink packages, more food packages, more excursions, more activities. That's how they make money. But when you buy a cruise ship ticket, between the ticket sales date until the actual embarkment date, oh my God, you get sick amount of marketing offers. I said, guys, that's great. Can we link it? Cannot do it. Couldn't do it. There's no customer ID on the email engine. I'm like, really? Because you don't even know what worked. You don't even know what the response rate are. They go like, you know the click-through rate, but since when the click-through rate brings in money, the only thing that matters is that somebody actually bought something. If you're not linking to the left-hand side through the lens of the customer ID, you don't know what the resultant value is from your activity. So all that attribution, no, it's not gonna work, I'm sorry. Well, you have the superficial attribution where you think that the click-through rate is correlated to the sales. It's not uncorrelated, but it's not the direct correlation. But is the job done? No, it's not. If you buy some commercial CDP solution, this is what you get. But let me go further. The job is not done until you create a customer-centric portrait. The transactions, what did I say in the beginning? Transactions are descriptors of transactions and channels. It's not about descriptions of customers. Again, customers are how many times did he do something? What are the days between transactions for that guy? How many product lines did he touch? What channel did it come from? How many channels did he touch? So he did a Google search this many times, and he did that many times. Okay, well, let's count all of them. And by the way, with the RFMP variables, I normally create about 1,000 variables out of it. Now, this intelligent variables, machines really love it, by the way. Even the machines love organized data like that. On the right-hand side, let's not talk about just the click-through rate. That's on a channel level anyway. Let's talk about if the guy is over-promoted, under-promoted, or adequately promoted. And when I say, you know, I sent like 20 emails to that guy last month. Now, my response is, well, is that a lot? I don't know. If he responded 4 times or clicked through every time, maybe you can send more. Maybe he loves you. But conversely, even if you send only 10 emails, the guy never even opened it, you're over-promoting to that guy. This is all personal. It's not about some hard and fast rule where, yeah, sending too many emails is bad. No, it's not. They're responding, that's good. Maybe you send more. Maybe more personalization is on order, but the point is not always that. Now, having that triangle is what I call analytics sandbox. When you have that, it is heck of a lot better than putting in the raw silos and all the cylinders that you have there. Yeah, sure, machine can read that. AI can figure it out, but it's a hit or miss. When you have this, and by the way, you can have the help of AI to categorize different things. In the old days, I used to hire a bunch of college graduated household mothers who have some free time while their babies are sleeping. And they're good spenders, so I used to have all this SKU level data categorized for 2,000 different vendors. And it was great. And in fact, I still think that those ladies would be better than AI doing it. But the point is, it's pretty expensive, right? So AI, by the way, AI is not something that will, how do I put it? Again, AI is a automation tool. It will be cheaper to do it that way. And another thing about automation, you do not automate the things that you don't know how to do. That's calling for disaster. You're going to do wrong thing really fast if you automate things not knowing what's going on or what you want. So that's a prime example of how the categorization can work together with a different engine. But the point is, this is where we want to get to. This is what I call holistic CDP. So let's summarize what the CDP must be. It's got to be omni-channel. What does that mean? That means you got to cover every single channel, online, offline, whatever the channel that you have. International too, by the way. Otherwise, you don't have the holistic picture of the person's behavior. Number 2, it's got to be connected on an individual level so that when you talk about things like how many times did he have to see the email until he bought something? That's a loaded question, by the way. If you ask that question, by the way, if you have a data shop who have all the smart kids, they will say things like, yeah, give me some days. I'm going to throw some flow chart and I could do it. Like, no. I want that answer in 0.5 seconds. 0.5 seconds is all I'm going to give you. You know what that means? You have to be pre-calculating all these things so that it comes out like that. All this number of customers same way. Of course you could do it, but the long and arduous like flow chart doesn't cut it. Clean and reliable. I cannot believe I have to say this, but I have to say it because a lot of data are not clean or reliable or categorized. It's a hot mess. And by the way, it's not because of the free-form data or all this stuff. What I call all the conversations that's on a call center. I don't even call that dirty because they're supposed to be free-form. But I'm talking about things like offer code. I walked into a shop and sometimes I encounter like 2,000 offer codes. Hey guys, you don't need 2,000 offer codes. Let's cut it down to under 20. Because you know why? Offers are very simple. Dollar offer, no payment until, percentage offer, seasonal offer. Well, it could be conditions, cut another code called conditional. And then if it's conditional or not, and so forth. If you categorize it that way, then you will know much faster what worked in the future. And of course, it has to be up to date. I helped out this major retail customer who had billion transactions or more. We built the Sandbox about a year and a half ago. It's a wonderful Sandbox. The kind of a graph that comes out of it is amazing. The insights that we gather is just mind-blowing. Guess what? They didn't update it until now. In fact, they're still working. Why? Because we have the prototype, and the IT has to install it so that it updates every week or every day. They're not doing it. Why they're not doing it? There are like tons of excuses. We're doing something else, we have a system breakdown, blah, blah, blah. There's a compliance issue, all that. Excuses, by the way. What did I say in the beginning? All these are not about technology. It's about commitment. If there's no commitment, a then nothing works, it's not up to date.
So I have a question.
Sure.
Because I hear this a lot,
Mhm.
talking to people about CDPs not being research ready or analytic ready.
Yes,
Yet they are used every day, every minute to deliver ads to
Of course.
customers.
of course.
And so if they're not analytics ready, what is being optimized?
They are
They're just,
automated
they're just
speed.
sending
Yeah,
stuff out.
all stuff faster, that's what
Yeah,
they do.
so that's the very definition of what you talked about automating something stupid.
Yeah, so that I
Right.
get all
But that's
myself.
been going on for over a decade now.
Yes,
Where an entire industry has been built up around, I'm simplifying it a little bit,
Mhm.
doing something stupid even faster, and a lot of people have made money off of it without any knowledge of whether it's effective at all,
yes.
because the data they're using is not analytics ready, yet it's algorithm ready.
Actually,
It's weird to me.
no, it is quite simple actually. To create that algorithm, I have two ways to explain this. One is the algorithm can be created much faster. Number two, the algorithm you create with something like this is much accurate and more relevant. Instead of, oh, he bought a golf driver, so I'm going to offer all this golf stuff and nothing about golf stuff. No, golf is related to cigar, it's related to wine, it's related to a lot of other things. Is it even related to how you vote? Let's do full force.
Sure, but now I'm at a point where I'm predicting something that I don't understand.
Mhm.
And I'm predicting it faster than I can decide whether it's made a mistake or not. Because I don't care about mistakes, I just care about delivering.
Sure.
Is that an unfair description of?
No, it's not
process that
unfair at all.
exhibited for a debt?
Because all these things that we have seen in the past decade is still better than not doing.
It seems just random to me, it's just a different way to make money.
Well, for
Somebody's making
example,
money.
the way,
Somebody's making money. off
of course,
it, but it's
Amazon
just
makes tons
random.
of money
Oh,
with
yeah,
a very antiquated way of modeling,
Yeah.
but it works. For example, I
How
bought
do you know it works? If it's not analytic ready, if it's not research ready, how do you know it works?
because they keep doing it. They're not dumb people. And I have my son-in-law working for
I don't
Amazon.
think they're dumb people, they're making money
Of
off
course
of
they
it.
are.
But they're
But,
making money because they have a platform
Yes.
that is opaque, that is doing something
Yes.
that somebody's paying for without knowing whether it works or not.
The way I call it is that yeah, they're doing something, and sometimes it works. Yeah, you bought,
Sometimes it
yeah, so, but that
Random whether it
sometimes
works.
is a lot better than not doing anything at all. So we're comparing. Okay, so not doing anything
Sort of.
at all is here.
Sort of.
They're doing something here. I'm talking about here. I'm talking about whole customer experience.
I know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
but what you're talking, the ideal that you're
Mhm.
talking about has been the promise of this entire system
Right.
for over 15 years. And what you're saying is that promise doesn't exist.
Oh, you
Because
just-
what's happening is stuff is just getting sent out
That's right.
and somebody's getting paid for sending it out. And they're doing it all the time. And because they're doing it all the time, it must be working.
It works. It can be a lot better, is my answer.
Okay.
Yeah, it could be a lot better, like not just a little bit better, a lot better. In fact, the way I judge it is because I am completely already bored by Amazon's or at to me, by the way. They send 2 emails or 3 emails per day, and it is all based on product, not about meat. It's not
Again,
about meat.
random.
It's
just
not random.
random.
It's
And
not
so
random.
they get paid for delivering.
People also use it just as an individual channel source, right? They can go to multiple channels, but they'll see the results in individual channels and show the success. That's why they keep using it, because it's easy to use. But they're not doing it to.
Quite hear anything.
I put it in the chat. Sorry, internet's a little bit off.
Anyway, so I gotta call in to wrap this up. So let me finish it. We'll continue this conversation during lunch. So anyway, this is checklist actually. This is the actual checklist. The main purpose of the CDP should be the left-hand side. But I'm not gonna go through it all. I'm gonna leave this behind anyway. And the reality check is, yeah, does it cover all channels? Is it connected by individual ID? And by the way, no reason why work even without individual ID. is because, yeah, you may never know the customer value, you may know the email value, but you can still send out an email. It's just, again, better than nothing. But the checklist is the real wake-up call for a lot of companies. Like, oh, wow, I couldn't even check like 3 boxes out of like all that. That's really bad. You know why it's bad? Because I know how expensive those rudimentary CDPs are. If you spend a little bit of more effort, you could be a lot better. Why would you not do it? Is my answer. So anyway, that's
Because they're getting paid already. That's why.
Of course.
They get paid whether they fix it or not.
Yeah, but this is, by the way, when I say it's a commitment issue, this should come from the C-level executive. Because I've seen guys where they put analytics department under marketing or under IT or whatever, then never works. Because it's more like an afterthought. I don't know what this is all about, so I'm going to just tuck in somewhere and hope to God that they'll work. And it becomes a good scapegoat. If something doesn't work, oh yeah, let's blame the analytics. Seen that too. And so, again, without the politics, if you just look at the data in itself, that's the checklist. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because of time. But anyways, let's talk about the why the one-size-fits-all solutions don't work. Because the last mile is about your business. What if your business is all about some subscription-based membership plus a transaction, and all the commercial software is designed for one thing or the other thing, right? And even for a very simple, like, say, retail shop, you have to customize it. The way you design your CDP for some high-ticket item like OLED TV and all the expensive refrigerator are quite different from some kind of a transaction based with the groceries, for example. The way you have to measure your success is different. The way you match is different. The way you organize a product line is different. It's all different. And without that last mile, and you spend some sick amount of money on CDP, you are really, it's like this, you buy a Ferrari and you just don't even put in the right gasoline, and that's just wrong. So that's all I'm trying to say. So let me just go through it all. Let me just wrap this up. By the way, the second half of this is actual how you do it, but I never intended to cover it all today anyway. So this is a leap behind, and when you actually get into the exercise of doing it, well, you know where I am. So, and I also wrote a sick amount of articles about this. So let's just leave it behind. So information must flow. So let's talk about the final thought and wrap this up. In the world of ubiquitous data, it's all about the organizational commitment. That's what I'm trying to say. To harness the power of the data, it's not about technology. It's not. It's not about, it's a commitment. And also to break down the barriers within the organization. Number two, higher value is created when the information is freely exchanged. And I've seen so many departmental wars. Again, going back to the airline industry, my God, it's just a shame. You got to break down the wall. It's not about the department. It's about the customer. And predictive power increases as multiple types of data are joined together. That's a fact. You do not predict somebody's a bargain seeker just because. And by the way, to predict somebody's a bargain seeker, you have to categorize every transaction data to see the percentage of discount for that person every single time. And you have to count how many times did he pay full price? How many times did it take more than 10% discount, blah, 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 blah. You have to create a bucket for every single person. Now, with that kind of data, you can predict who's a bargain seeker. And by the way, commercial solutions don't even come close to something like that. And speed of data exchange is the only game left in town. And this is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, they are doing something, but you could do a lot faster. Not just a little bit faster, but how about 10 times faster or 20 times faster? It's really amazingly different. And it requires less human intervention. That's another thing, by the way. Yeah, sure, less human intervention leads to speed increase, but it's always good. But my question philosophically is that will humans even have something to do in the future? People who will rely on AI blindly will be replaced by AI very, very, very soon. And somebody studied this already, and I forgot the number, but the point is about top 10% of the performers in your organization, when they get the AI, they become 3-4 times more efficient. You know what the problem is? Everybody else will lose their job. So smart people who know how to wield these things will be relevant and have something to do. In other words, human beings can command, even in the world of Star Trek, somebody has to command the machine to go somewhere, right? And you have to understand why do we have to go there, how fast we have to go there. All that is human decision. The machines will automate what you want to do faster. But if you're only thinking about, yeah, I'm a gear in a big machine, and I'm happy doing the same thing again and again for the next 20 years, no, that's pretty bad. And in fact, maybe in the future, we'll just have to collect the machine text and feed them free just because they're human. But that future is coming really fast. So this is one of those things where, and I get a lot of calls from my friends like, oh, my son wants to be a data engineer, or they want to get into the data gig because there's good money. And you know what I say? I honestly say, I don't know what to say, because you now have to be not only an analyst, you have to be able to talk about business, you have to be able to sell it, you have to be able to do all these other things. Because if you just have a degree in statistics and be really good at model building, unless you come up with amazingly new technology that uses the machine learning and do faster, you will be irrelevant in the near future. So this is a bit of a scary thing. But what doesn't change is that we have to humanize the data. Human factor is the only factor, and the math, of course, will remain unchanged. So in other words, you got to understand the business end of it. And you have to refrain yourself. You cannot do it just because you can. And of course, you have to try your best not to be replaced by the machine. So anyway, that's the wrap up. So we'll take some questions here, but I had to cut a little short, but yes, of course.
Is it Dr. Ye?
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Mr. Ye.
Yeah.
My apologies for joining your session late.
That's okay.
Regarding your diagram of the ideal CDP,
Sure.
centric connectivity, where would empirical scientific experiments fit within this mix, right? Would this act as a check and balance across your data sources, or would it act as a check and balance against your entire system?
It's not a check and balance. It's more like having everything on an individual centric basis, because it's not easy to do it. I'll give you an example. You have a transaction that are online or offline. How are you going to connect them? It's not about checks and balances.
You have to connect it through experimentation.
No, it's proven. It's already proven. That, yeah, let's accept certain errors. For example, my name is Stephen Yu, but it could be spelled Y-U, Y-O-O, Y-O-U. I've seen all kinds of stuff. Oh, let me give you a better example. I have a friend named Fred Bellucci. Bellucci could be spelled Bellucci could be C-C-I, could be C-H-I, could be C-H-Y, could be all kinds of spellings, right? We have developed certain algorithms that can match those things for about 40, 50 years. I don't question those things. Those tests are done. So I'm not, all I ask is how tight you want it to be. If it's for banking notification, then when in doubt, you don't combine them. But if it's for marketing, you can combine it. Yeah, it's probably one person. What if the address is 1234 Main Street and 1243 Main Street, but everything else is the same, last name is the same, zip code is the same? It's probably one person. They have to decide which address is better. But all those things, you don't need experimentation.
Maybe I should follow up. I guess what I'm trying to communicate is regarding the data signals that you achieve from things like walled gardens.
What
right? Walled gardens,
okay.
Right? You may believe that those signals are accurate, right? But what is the check and balance to determine if they are in fact reporting what is happening on their platforms?
That's why you always have to test. Let me go back to the beginning of this page. When something works, you have to figure out what worked and also why it didn't work. You're talking about number 7. You do all these things. You have to ask questions. You gotta do some of this data describer to see if you have the data to answer those questions. You gotta do a transformation, all those things. They're all part of the transformation. And you do all those things and you applied it. And if it worked or not worked, to answer your question, you should always be testing. One of my mentors is Lester Wonderman. He was a chairman of my startup company. And he said, you're not a database marketer if you're not testing all the time. But about 90% plus marketers do not test. They don't even read the result. They go like, yeah, this season is done. I get this many sales. Let's move on. So I said, how are you going to make it better next season? So to answer your question, yeah, you have to be testing every single time. No question. In fact, I'll say that you're not a one-to-one marketer if you're not testing. I hope that it answers your question.
Well, certainly, yeah. Getting closer. It's a cultural thing, I think.
It's also the culture. It's also old school. Lester Wonderman, he died when he was 80 something, 86 or 9. He was, by the way, when we were founding this company, he was in the 90s. He was already predicting. It was the beginning of the dot-com boom. He was already predicting the demise of all the dot-com companies before it happened, like 8 years before it happened. And he also wrote and penned. Just look it up on the internet. He wrote 10 consumer bill of rights for consumers by Lester Wonderman. If you look for it, every single word in it still rings true right now. And if we follow that, we'll be in so much less trouble. But the problem is that nobody follows it. I'm trying to preach the message as much as I can, but you know why this happens, by the way? Again, going back to the apparel company that drops 14 emails per person per week, this is what happens. They were awarding the email manager based on number of successful email deployments. Think about that. If you award somebody like that, of course he will send more emails. He doesn't care if there's an opt-out rate going up the wazoo or open rate is tanking. He doesn't care because his bonus depends on successful email deployment. This is a cultural change. This is not, again, it's not about technology, it's about culture. And that's why the CMO by the way, when I do the educational program, sometimes I do only for the C-level executives and talk about nothing but this. Because without their commitment, I'm just wasting time with the line managers. And even if you build all these wonderful things, they don't use it. And it just breaks my heart. I still got paid, by the way, but still it breaks my heart.
So Stephen, to that exact point, as we sort of migrate into the discussion on governance.
Oh, geez. Right there.
Again, you just set us up for the next section quite nicely.
Great. Let me stop sharing.
So thank you,
Yeah,
amongst many other thanks that, again, I'm going to have to invite you back to finish the second part. But what I think we'll do in the spirit of just, taking a break, those of you virtual, if you want to go grab your lunch or